I would now like to invite His Excellency, Mr. António Guterres, United Nations Secretary General, to deliver his keynote address.
Your Majesty, Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here today to commemorate the closing of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And I wish to express my gratitude to His Majesty and the Government of the Netherlands for hosting us in this beautiful and historic Hall of Knights. And I also thank the Netherlands and the City of The Hague for the excellent partnership for the past 24 years in enabling the Tribunal to fulfill its important mandate and for their continuing support to many other international courts and tribunals. The creation of the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia in 1993 was a groundbreaking moment. It had been close to half a century since the Nuremberg and Tokyo war crimes trials. The 1948 Genocide Convention entered into force in 1951, but no international criminal tribunal that would recognize individual criminal responsibility for such a crime had yet been established. By voting unanimously for the creation of the first ever criminal tribunal within the United Nations, the Security Council noted that it was convinced that it would contribute to the restoration and maintenance of peace, thereby highlighting the close links between international criminal justice and the organization's core mission. I would sincerely like that this feeling would remain today. The creation of this tribunal demonstrated a newfound and serious commitment by the international community that those responsible for perpetrating the most serious crimes of international concern should be held accountable for their actions. The tribunal sat for more than 10,000 days of trial and heard testimony from nearly 5,000 people. 90 individuals were sentenced for their crimes, including genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. And beyond those numbers, the tribunal gave a voice to victims. People who had experienced atrocious violence and tragic losses, including women and girls, were given the opportunity to tell their stories in court, to place their experiences on the record, and to see the perpetrators of crimes against them held accountable. This in itself has contributed to the healing process. Reliving such horrors takes tremendous fortitude. I salute the courage of all those who came to the tribunal to guarantee that justice could be served. And it is because of these witnesses that the tribunal leaves behind one of its most important legacies, the immense archives documenting what happened in Sarajevo, Foča, Vukovar, Suva Reka, Srebrenica, and elsewhere. These records ensure that the world will not forget, that history cannot be rewritten, and that the victims' voices will continue to resound down the decades. Ladies and gentlemen, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia has been a pioneer in creating the contemporary architecture of international criminal justice. The tribunal has pushed international expectations of accountability beyond what was anticipated in 1993, transforming how we speak about and address situations in which serious international crimes are committed. Today, it's common practice for the United Nations Security Council to call for the perpetrators of atrocities to be held accountable. We see this too in the statements of heads of state, in the work of journalists, in the efforts of national courts, and in public opinion. Accountability has taken root in our collective consciousness. And since the establishment of the tribunal, we have seen a flourishing of entities established to ensure accountability, including the International Criminal Court for Rwanda, the Special Court for Sierra Leone, the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, the Special Tribunal for Lebanon, and, of course, the International Criminal Court. Indeed, without United Nations tribunals for Yugoslavia and Rwanda, there might never have been a permanent International Criminal Court, the central institution of the international criminal justice system today. At the national level, the work of the former International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia inspired the establishment of the War Crimes Chamber in the State Court of Bosnia-Herzegovina, which has been working since 2005 to conduct war crimes trials according to international standards. The transfer of investigation files to national authorities, the referral of cases to the national courts, and the ongoing provision of evidence and assistance to enable them to prosecute the crimes that took place in the conflict of the 90s is a significant part of the Tribunal's legacy. And the Tribunal also helped to inspire prosecutions and trials for international crimes at the domestic level. The United Nations will continue to support national authorities and civil society in this work. While these developments are to be praised, we know that the cause of criminal justice is a long-term undertaking, and we must remain attentive and resolute. I'm confident that with the support of the international community, international criminal justice will continue to develop, and more countries where atrocities were committed will initiate or continue prosecutions in their own courts. But the future is not only the fight against impunity, it is also the pursuit of truth and reconciliation. The Spanish writer Juan Goytisolo reported in 1993 the existence of memoricide, erasing the past, for example, through the destruction of the Library of Sarajevo. The Tribunal has led the way in establishing the criminalization of attacks against cultural property under international law. And I'd also like to recognize the outreach program, which sought to bring the Tribunal's proceedings closer to the affected people, communities, and national authorities. In 2009, in my capacity as High Commissioner for Refugees, I visited the Potokari Memorial in Srebrenica to pay my respects. That genocide will continue to haunt the global conscience. Just as the whole international community, including the United Nations, has had to acknowledge their share of responsibility for the massacre, so must the various communities of the former Yugoslavia build on the legacy of the Tribunal and deepen their efforts towards trust and full reconciliation. Accepting the undeniable truths and facts of past tragedies is crucial for building a better and common future. Mesdames et Messieurs, the Tribunal Penal...
Ladies and gentlemen, the ICTY would not have been able to work without the continuous support of the member states, the international institutions, and the civil society. The tribunal will now be closing its doors, but we still have a lot to do. The international community should continue to ask to bring to trial perpetrators of serious crimes and to render justice to the victims. This is the reason why the ceremony organized today, focusing on the legacy of the court, is so important. The Latin word legatus means ambassador or envoy. It is up to us as of now to be the ambassadors of the memory of people and to make known the fact that the tragedies which took place in former Yugoslavia should never be forgotten. We all must be considered as ambassadors of human rights, of the rule of law and justice. With this in mind, I would like to pay tribute to all those who have served the tribunal and helped the court move forward, and they are the heirs of an important legacy which we should all preserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Secretary General, for your inspiring words. Merci.